Okay, so I want to show you the ones I dehydrated whole in my oven. Hello and welcome to a new video. How are you doing? Thank you so much for clicking in. This is Mecca and this is Mecca's garden, kitchen and healing journey, where I share about growing my food as organically as possible and also making nutritious healing foods in my kitchen, and finally just sharing my healing journey from chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia and pain. Today is a preservation video because we are inundated with raspberries. We have it everywhere. Like, I think I have harvested about 10 kilos, no joke, from my small patch. So if you are considering growing raspberries or berries, raspberries are one of the easiest ones to grow. I would recommend the thornless variety because the thornless varieties doesn't have the thorns. Obviously, I've been giving cuttings. I never had to buy them. So if you have an allotment or you have neighbors, you can get the cuttings because they actually spread quite easily and people don't want them spreading so much. So they're able to ask you to harvest the runners or the ones that are like going out of the patch. Anyway, so we are making raspberry powder. So raspberry powder. Now I tried preserving, I have a video how I preserve blackcurrant powder, blackberry powder. I have never done raspberry powder. I don't really know why. I think this is the first year we're having this much raspberries probably. But I think the method is pretty much the same. Now, I tried preserving them wholes and I'll show you at the end what my thoughts are about preserving it as a whole dehydrated raspberry or making it into powder. Now, if you have a freeze dryer, that is like the best way to preserve, your fruits because they will be left almost as the way they have been fresh and they taste so crunchy. But dehydration is a little bit different because of the sugar and the starchy content in the fruits. So what we start to do first, we have to use a masher. So these are beautiful raspberries I just picked today. I try to ensure they're freshly picked before I do this. So I have a masher here and we're just gonna go ahead and mash these berries. That's all, just mash it. Mash this as smoothly as you can. Now you can also put this in your blender, but I prefer mashing it. That's just giving it a good mash and removing, just essentially increasing the surface area of the raspberries. So it doesn't take that long at all. Once you're sure you've smashed pretty much all the raspberries, next is to put this on a parchment paper. It doesn't take that long, it's easy. Obviously, you do need a bit of energy. I share videos, I got that on my cheek. I'm always sharing videos on how I use my oven to dehydrate goods. It's easier for me. I'm sure one of these days I will invest in a really decent dehydrator, but for now my oven does a great job. And actually I prefer it to the cheap dehydrator I have. So if you have an oven, it is a fan assisted oven, but it's a manual dial. It works really well to dehydrate berries. So this is my oven. These are the parchment papers. I love making sure it's a double layer of parchment paper because that way the trays will not get the acid, the oven racks won't get acid on them, and that can actually make them go rusty or the rust coming in contact with the fruit. So that's why I always use a double layer of parchment paper. Now, it is not wasteful. I reuse it over and over again until it's brittle and then I can't use it. So that's not wasteful. So these are sort of like extra racks. I've just put them on top of this to essentially reduce the chances of the berries dripping from the bottom because I've had that happen in the past. So the extra holes, the extra racks just reinforces it. And next we're just gonna spread our berries. So once I've poured a little bit like so, then I just spread it. Just give it a good spread as thinly as possible. Now, this is important to reduce the energy consumption so that you don't spend days dehydrating. Make it as thin, as though you're making a fruit leather, really. That's the most important thing to have in mind. I also try to make the edges thicker than the middle because the edges dehydrate faster. So just spread this out. Just continue all through the oven. You see what's happening there? My extra rack moved. So it will just start sinking and it will spill. So this extra rack is so important to ensure everything is flat because this is not a dehydrator. Okay. We're gonna shut the oven partly. We don't want it completely shut, so we've got a little gap there, and I'm gonna turn the dial on just below 100. We don't want to cook it, we want to dehydrate it, so it's not up to 100 degrees, and this is 80 degrees dial, and that is just before, so that's about 60 or 70 degrees. I love preserving the integrity of berries because berries are high vitamin C, fruit. So vitamin C degrades with heat. So it's essential to ensure that you don't have high temperatures in as much as we want it to dehydrate quicker. Now, this will probably take me about, let's say, 10 hours. It all depends on how much I have in there. Today, I have just about 1 kilo of berries. And I have to do this every other day because berries, raspberries, you get to pick them every other day. Otherwise, they start rotting on the plant, and then you have the fruit flies going and eating them, and you have maggots and worms, and we don't like that. So after 24 hours, before you get to that stage, here's one I made earlier, like they say. So this one has been dehydrating for about 6 hours. It's still quite loose. So what I do at this point, I just go and I spread it, and I'll show you. Okay, so after a few hours, I go ahead and I just, it's looking a bit darker at the top and it's still moist at the bottom. So I go ahead and I just spread it so we just get the wet part dehydrating. And once this is dehydrated, you can go ahead and peel. You know how you make the fruit leathers? Now this is not quite ready yet, but we're just gonna peel this out when it's ready. So I'm gonna show you another one I did earlier, just like they do, whilst we put this back in the dehydrator. So this is what I do. I preserve it in my freezer once it's dehydrated so I can process them in one bowl. So these are the dehydrated sheets of berries. Look how crunchy they are. Perfect to blend. Now, raspberries are notorious for their seeds. They have so many seeds. And I don't really want the seeds. I want more of the fruit. So we're just gonna blend. Okay, let's see. Look at how colorful. Can you see how vibrant it looks? A beautiful raspberry powder. The best you would ever find. And guys, this is organic. Like, have a look at how much raspberry powder costs to buy. It's so expensive, not to talk of organic. Like organic fruits, raspberries can be in the dirty dozen because they have really thin skins. They are heavily sprayed to prevent the worms from going in and laying eggs and people eating the worms. So this one has not blended smoothly. I'm gonna pop that back into my blender and then add some more. And we'll just continue the process until I have enough powder. And I will go ahead and store it in a jar. It will last me throughout the winter and even beyond. Once we finish straining them or running it through the sieve, I find I need to dehydrate it further. It's so important. So this is what I will do. Transfer it onto another tray, and this will just stay I could dehydrate this at room temperature or in the dehydrator / oven for an hour or so. I just want to ensure every moisture is out of this. But guys, look at how beautifully vibrant this looks. This is so beautiful. And I'll show you the ones I dehydrated whole to show you the difference. Now, this is why I don't like dehydrating it whole. Now look at this, and I'm gonna put it next to these ones. Can you see the color? Can you see how it lacks color, it lacks luster? It doesn't feel the same. I think it's because it takes a whole longer to dehydrate. I'm sure a freeze dryer, I have seen freeze dried ones, they look a lot more better. So if you don't have a freeze dryer, this is the best way to dehydrate your raspberries. Look, it will clump together in storage, that's fine. And I prefer storing all my berries, my powders in general that I make, even my herbs, I prefer storing them in the freezer just because obviously it takes less space than if it was whole. This is about 6 kilos of whole raspberries that have just been compressed into the small amount because we've got rid of all the moisture. So I have less space. I'm just going to store this in a jar and put it in the freezer, and we'll use them in our smoothies, in our bakings, in our cereals or porridge in the morning, and it's so fresh. The taste of summer. Yes, I know when it's whole, it has that crunchiness, but it just doesn't look as vibrant and taste as fresh as the powder for me. I also store fresh ones in the freezer as well, just a couple bags to tide me through the winter when we want it really nice and fresh. But ultimately, this is the best way I have found to preserve raspberries, and it's really saves you space for one, and also the flavor and the taste and the texture and the nutrients. Now, raspberries are one nutritional powerhouse. I'm going to do a separate video on how important raspberries are and how you should include raspberries into your diet. Anyway, guys, thank you. We've come to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Have you enjoyed the video? Has it added value to you? Have you learned something? This is one of the easiest things you can do. Like, do this if you have it in abundance, or you can buy this now because they are in abundance in the shops. They are cheaper, easier to buy now than in the winter, and you store them for a longer period than looking for them in the winter when it's not readily available. Anyway, until next time, I am your one and only Mecca, Mecca's Garden Kitchen and Healing Journey, and I sign out. Thank you. Don't forget to share and also click the like button. Bye-bye.